Over the last 50 years in the video game industry, there have been so many influential and revolutionary games for a variety of reasons. Some have gone ahead and made a huge impact in the arcades, going as far back as Pac-Man in 1980 and Donkey Kong in 1981. After the video game crash in the 1980s, Nintendo revolutionized the home console market and they themselves produced one of the most influential series of games that started in 1985 with Super Mario Bros. And continues to go strong to this very day, 40 years later. Sega joined the mix in 1990 with Sonic the Hedgehog. PC gamers as well have seen some of the most revolutionary and influential games, and the perfect example of that is the first-person shooter juggernaut known as Doom. As genre gameplay became more prevalent in the video game industry, video game designers and publishers evolved and began moving away from platformers such as Kirby, action games such as Mega Man 2, puzzle games such as Adventures of Lolo. As video games became more advanced and matured, we saw the rise of many genres of games that would continue to influence and revolutionize the industry. Survival horror became a mainstay through the likes of Resident Evil due to its claustrophobic and action-based gameplay involving plenty of puzzle solving, and the fear-inducing psychological horror game Silent Hill that follows the everyman who is just searching for his daughter with monsters at every turn, also involving plenty of puzzle solving. Stealth games became a successful genre thanks to the incredible Metal Gear Solid utilizing a more cinematic form of storytelling with more complex and mature movie-like narratives. Also, the game kicks ass. This would be followed by the as successful series of games known as Hitman. Then combine both the survival horror and stealth genres and you get The Last of Us. A game that utilizes both brutal action, survival, stealth, incredible storytelling, mature, complex narratives, and more to produce one of the greatest games of all time. Sandbox games became a success thanks to Grand Theft Auto 3, a kick-ass game where you play as an escaped convict looking for revenge against the people who betrayed you. This game allowed you to go ahead and pick what missions you wanted to take on and explore the city. Then there's fighting games, and you have to look no further than Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting and Mortal Kombat, where it took fighting games and made them video game mainstays with memorable characters, special attacks, blood, and fatalities. I could keep going, but I need to keep this moving. I'm going to rewind to my comments regarding Super Mario Bros. And Mega Man 2. Like I said, Super Mario Bros. Revolutionized the home console market with its excellent linear gameplay, music, setting, characters, and more that went ahead and provided hour upon hour of entertainment for many gamers my age. This series of games has lasted for 40 years and is still going strong, and with each game it continues to inspire, influence, and revolutionize the platform genre. Then, with Mega Man 2, though Mega Man came before it, the approach to playing the game became non-linear, meaning that you could pick any level you wanted to start with and then progress through the game, the action, level of challenge, the awesome music, the awesome gameplay, weapons that you could use helped this series ascend to a level of success that Capcom adapted this non-linear approach to the Disney games they produced for the NES, such as DuckTales. Now let's stick to non-linear gaming. While Super Mario Bros. Was the best game of its time in 1985 and utilised its linear style of gameplay to perfection, there was another game being developed in Japan and ready to come out in 1986 that was going to go with a different approach, with more focus on adventure, puzzle solving, action, exploration of an open world, allowing gamers a level of unprecedented freedom. A game that would revolutionize the industry further than Super Mario Bros. Could ever imagine. This game would become a legend itself. I'm talking about, of course, The Legend of Zelda. I mentioned him before in my previous History of video, the History of Super Mario World, and that's the great Shigeru Miyamoto. I didn't really go into too much detail about his life, but let's take a dive into his life. Shigeru Miyamoto was born on November 16th, 1952 in the town of Sonobe, Kyoto Prefecture. He has described his parents as being of modest means, where his father taught English. Miyamoto loved to explore from an early age, especially the natural areas surrounding his home. During these times, going out and exploring, he would come across a cave where after days of hesitation, he finally entered, and further expeditions into the Kyoto countryside would inspire him for what was to come. In the early 1970s, Miyamoto would graduate from Kanazawa Municipal College of Industrial Arts with a degree in industrial design. Whilst growing up, he developed a love for manga and originally wanted to become a manga artist as he was influenced by the Kisho Tenketsu narrative structure as well as Western genre TV shows. At the end of the 1970s, Miyamoto would come across the classic arcade game Space Invaders, which inspired him to enter the video game industry. In the late 1970s, Miyamoto's father had arranged an interview with Nintendo president Hiroshi Yamauchi, and after showing him some of his toy designs, he was hired as an apprentice in the planning department. After working on some coin-operated arcade games as a graphic designer, some as the game's director, and some doing both, some I've already played on the channel, such as the aforementioned Donkey Kong, its follow-up game Mario Bros, the Donkey Kong clone that is Popeye, the unique screen-moving Devil World, and a game that gave us the most shootable dog known as Duck Hunt. We know that Shigeru Miyamoto hit the big time with Super Mario Bros. Released on the Nintendo Entertainment System on September 13th, 1985. And in 5 months' time, Miyamoto was about to make himself a legend with The Legend of Zelda. Let's rewind for a moment and go back to Miyamoto's childhood. Miyamoto loved to explore from an early age, especially the natural areas surrounding his home. During these times, going out and exploring, he would come across a cave where after days of hesitation, he finally entered, and further expeditions into the Kyoto countryside would inspire his work on The Legend of Zelda. His explorations into the hillsides and forests that surrounded his home in Kyoto of course led to finding this cave in the middle of the forest, and even with hesitation to enter, he finally did, and explored the depths of the cave with the aid of a lantern. Miyamoto has referred to the creation of The Legend of Zelda as an attempt to bring to life a miniature garden for players to play with and to create a sense of limitless wonder, similar to what he felt as a child. In an interview, Miyamoto would say this: "When I was a child, I went hiking and found a lake. It was quite a surprise for me to stumble upon it. When I travelled around the country without a map, trying to find my way, stumbling on amazing things as I went, I realised how it felt to go on an adventure like this." With help from Takashi Tezuka, he helped to create the story and setting who wanted to create a fairy tale adventure game, where he drew inspiration from fantasy books including the legendary series of books by one J.R.R. Tolkien known as The Lord of the Rings. The backstory of the game was written by Keiji Terui, a screenwriter who had previously worked on anime shows such as Dr. Slump and Dragon Ball. He drew a lot of inspiration from medieval Europe, the tales of King Arthur and Excalibur, Celtic mythology, and more that will be explained later in this video. One thing to add is that to create the layout to the dungeons, Miyamoto was inspired by his very own home growing up. He would use his own memories of the sliding doors, creating an almost labyrinthine environment that he would get lost among. He used this as the means to create the layout for the famous dungeons within The Legend of Zelda. Development of The Legend of Zelda began in the fall of 1984, and it was originally going to be released as a launch title for the Nintendo Famicom disk system. If you are unaware of the difference between the Famicom and the NES, here it is. The The Nintendo Entertainment System is the big grey box console that was released in North America, Europe, and many other territories around the globe. This, generally speaking, is the more widely known and recognised version of the console. The Nintendo Famicom is a white and red console with a top-loader mechanism for the game similar to the Super Nintendo. The main difference between the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Famicom, besides the top-loader mechanism, was the control pads for the system were built onto the console. This was very different at the time, but also would have been a pain in the arse given the wires are so short. The Famicom, as mentioned moments ago, also had a disk system which was sold separately and could be attached to the Famicom to create a behemoth of a console, similar looking to, say, the Nintendo GameCube. Many games that were released as part of the Nintendo Famicom disk system, and one notable game released on the Nintendo Famicom disk system was the precursor to Super Mario Bros. 2, Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's continue. The development team worked on both Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda concurrently and had a very unique way of separating their ideas for both games. With Super Mario Bros. Being played in a linear fashion, any action sequences had to fit this method where the action occurred in a strict sequence. The Legend of Zelda was deliberately made to be the opposite. With Super Mario Bros., Miyamoto would downplay and abandon the concept of needing to get the high score, despite you being able to get points and have a scoreboard in the top right of the screen, and wanted the player to focus more on completing the game. This concept was also carried over to The Legend of Zelda, but went a step further by abandoning all forms of points. Miyamoto was in charge of the ideas for both games and would make the final decision on whether he saw any idea as a Mario idea or a Zelda idea. I've mentioned countless times that Mario was made to be a linear game, with Zelda being the opposite as it is non-linear. This concept was introduced to force the players to think about what they had to do next. According to Miyamoto, gamers in Japan were confused and troubled when finding their way through the multi-path dungeons, and in initial game designs, the player would start with the sword straight away already in their inventory. As opposed to simplifying things for the player, Miyamoto would force them into talking to the old man in the cave to retrieve the sword. It was to encourage them to interact with characters in the game and other people who were playing the game, to share their ideas with each other, to find the various hidden secrets, creating a new form of communication within the gaming community. Takashi Tezuka would design the levels and the dungeons in The Legend of Zelda using the aforementioned inspiration of The Lord of the Rings and Miyamoto's childhood experiences. He would hand over the designs to Toshihiko Nakago in December 1985 so he could easily replicate them into the final game. Normally at a time like this I would say something along the lines of there being some kind of roadblock, incident or whatever, but this time there wasn't. Nakago would go ahead and use half of the pieces he had for the dungeons while copying the map, which Miyamoto would say was good enough. This resulted in using only half the memory available, so they used the other half to create the second quest. The Legend of Zelda is traditionally played as an action-adventure puzzle role-playing game. This is how Shigeru Miyamoto described The Legend of Zelda. A kind of adventure game that's got an RPG feel to it, or RPG with some action touches to it. There's a lot to unpack with the gameplay of The Legend of Zelda, so I'll do my best to breeze through everything. The player controls our hero from a top-down perspective, a unique feature at the time. The hero will travel through the world through a flip screen style. To clarify, flip screen is a term used to describe an environment that is divided into single screen portions. The player will only see one portion of the environment on the screen at a time until they move into the next screen portion. Luckily, to help you traverse this vast land, you are provided with a map. Our hero begins the game with only a shield until you go into the cave, speak to the old man who will give you the sword and say the famous line, "It's dangerous to go alone, take this." Throughout the game, our hero acquires many more items to help him on his quests, such as bombs to open up new routes in the overworld and dungeons, the very useful arrows to kill enemies from afar, and much more. When you start the game, you start off with 3 hearts which act as your health. One of the most important items you will collect throughout the game are heart containers. Collecting these will increase your health, giving you more of a chance to survive the challenges and monsters that await you. Most heart containers are found after defeating the boss at the end of each dungeon. Of course, if you get hit too many times and your hearts become empty, you die and have to start the adventure again. Along with the various weapons and items you can obtain, a big help along the way are stronger swords, which will do more damage to your enemies. The in-game currency are jewels known as rupees. You can get these by killing enemies throughout the game and can be exchanged for items from merchants found in caves around the game. The main focus of the game, besides defeating the main villain and rescuing the title princess, is collecting the Triforce. Pieces of the Triforce are found at the end of each dungeon after defeating the boss, but I'll get into more detail about this integral piece of the game later on in the video. One of the most influential and memorable aspects of The Legend of Zelda is, of course, the music. The music was composed by the legend that is Koji Kondo, who for this game was credited as Konchan. Kondo would end up composing the 5 songs of The Legend of Zelda, and he had planned to use Maurice Ravel's Bolero as the title theme for the game, as the song matched the speed perfectly. This is where I say that there was a problem along the way. Well, with Japanese copyright laws, music is released into the public domain after 50 years. Okay, no big issue, right? Here's where the big issue occurs. By November 1985, Maurice Ravel had been dead for 49 years and 11 months. This forced Kondo to change the title theme late in development. Kondo would go on to write a new arrangement within 1 day. 1 day! And this became the iconic motif that we all know and love today, that has continued to be used throughout the series. Here are some of Koji Kondo's remarks about making the intro song in 1 day when being interviewed alongside Takashi Tezuka and Shigeru Miyamoto. I pulled an all-nighter to compose the opening song, but it's just an arrangement of music used in the game. I was desperate. It was really down to the wire. Back in the 1980s, there was always one important component that came with every single game: the instruction manual. Most of the time, the instruction manual was there to provide you with the basics on how to play a game. You know, tells you what buttons to press, maybe a couple of extra tidbits about the game. So why was the game manual to The Legend of Zelda so important? Not only did it provide the player with the basics on how to play the game, this game literally sets the scene, gives you all the information on the enemies, the main villain, weapons, everything. As soon as you open the manual on pages 3 and 4, it goes ahead and explains the history of the world you inhabit, and explains the events in what led to the start of the game and why our hero embarks on his adventure. On page 5, it begins to explain on how to defeat the main villain, but it is done in a way where it continues to explain more about the world, introducing more of the characters and where you must go to meet your destiny, Death Mountain. As you progress through this section, you learn about the merchants hidden in the caves, mentions the fairies who will restore our hero's health, mentions additional weapons you can collect throughout the game to aid you on your adventure, such as the boomerang. It is explained about the labyrinths and the riddles you must solve within them, and how you must remember the layout. Keep in mind, this is if you don't find a compass and map in each of the labyrinths. It continues to go into greater details, warning you about the doors that lock behind you and can lead to a very hectic battle for survival. Then you're given hints on how to defeat the final boss, the Big Honcho, our main villain. Moving on from our rich history, the manual from page 11 to page 15 goes ahead and explains on how to create a new game, inputting your name, deleting your game, and even goes ahead and urges you to play with a friend, as when you die, you can retry, pick up where you left off, but from the beginning, and letting your friend play. On page 16, it finally tells you what the buttons are. Then on to page 17, where it shows you both the main screen in which you play and your inventory screen, or sub-screen as they call it. Page 18 is about the difference between the overworld and underworld screens. The underworld being the dungeons you must go into. It describes the overworld as a beautiful environment, warning you of the dangers you will face. Whilst with the underworld, it does describe it as a underground maze of dangerous labyrinths, warning you of the dangers that lie ahead and telling you that you can find the Triforce in these areas. When we move to the next page, we get more information about the weapons our hero can collect, starting off with the sword. At first, you collect the regular sword after you talk to the old man in the cave. As you progress, you receive the white sword and the magical sword, but we all know that the magical sword is really the master sword. Anyway, when you upgrade from the regular sword to the white sword, it does ×2 damage to enemies, and the same when you go from the white sword to the master sword. Next is information on the shield on page 20. The shield you start with can repel rocks and spears, but when you upgrade to the magical shield, it tells you that you can repel spells, rocks, and Zola's ball. What is Zola? Well, we will get to that later. Either way, the shield is a necessity and you'll need it in your battle against evil. Page 21 explains more about the rupees. I've already done this, so let's move on. Page 22 and 23 goes into detail about the items you can collect to continue to aid you in your adventure, starting off with the heart containers, the hearts themselves, and fairies. It moves on to the keys, the ladder, and raft on page 22 before explaining the map and compass of the labyrinths, the letter to the old lady, the blue and red rings, power bracelet, and magical clock. One of the most important sections of this Bible is up next, and it is the weapons section starting on page 24. Starting off with the wooden boomerang and magical boomerang, moving on to the bombs you can use to kill enemies and reveal secret tunnels in the overworld or deep down in the labyrinthine dungeons. Moving on to the bow and wooden and silver arrows you can collect to deal more damage to enemies from a distance. Then it is the red and blue candles. There's a difference in use for both the candles. While both do indeed light up rooms in the dungeon, the blue candle will only light up one room of the dungeon, whilst the red candle will light up the entire dungeon. The whistle is next. Not much information, but instead a hint to use it is there instead, and says it'll amaze you with what it can do. Want to lure enemies toward you so you can dispatch them with ease? Then make sure you've got the enemy bait. That's right, our hero is happy to carry a huge leg of meat around with him to attack enemies. Be careful, it doesn't work on every enemy. Then there's the Water of Life, a useful item that will refill your health when you've used it. And finally there's the magic wand and the magic book, which tells you that our hero can learn magic spells and use them against various enemies. The final piece of information is on the Triforce, but I'm still going to give it some time before I go into more detail regarding this important piece of the game. Page 27 and 28 is about the overworld and how to navigate the screens. You know, move to the edge of the screens and the screen scrolls. Plus there's a section on the old man, the old ladies, and the merchants in the game. The enemies of the overworld is on pages 29, 30 and 31, but I won't go into this yet. From page 32 until page 39, it's all about the dungeons. These hazardous areas can be overwhelming for a first time player of The Legend of Zelda, but lucky for us, we've got our Bible here, and it helps explain to the player that if you've discovered a dungeon and it's too tough, you may be further ahead than you should be. So it's wiser to escape the dungeon and move on. Then it lets you know about using the candles to light the way in dark areas of the dungeon, that you must also find the map and compass if you want to successfully navigate these dangerous areas, and about the doors you'll come across in the dungeons, such as the ones that require keys and the doors that lock behind you. You're also encouraged to search for treasures within the dungeons. It is always important that you do, because every weapon, every heart container, every piece of treasure will help you defeat the evil main villain. We're shown the names of each of the dungeons in the next mini section, but I'll come to those shortly. From here until the end of page 39, we're shown the enemies of the dungeons, the bosses of each dungeon, and finally, our main villain. Guess what though? We're not there yet to go into detail regarding them. You know how in instruction manuals it just gives you information on how to play the game? A tiny bit of the backstory and that's it? On page 40 to page 42, it full on tells you on how to get to the first dungeon. Like, wow, that is unprecedented. On page 43 and 44 is a large map, giving you a huge hint on where to find the second dungeon. For whatever reason, the manual has compliance with FCC regulations crap for 2 pages, before more tips, tricks, and information about your upcoming adventure, the dungeons, and much, much more. The instruction manual for The Legend of Zelda, as I said before, is like a Bible. The do's and do nots on how to play the game, vital information about weapons, enemies, items, the people you encounter throughout the land, a rich backstory, and much, much more. This manual itself has become a thing of legend amongst fans of The Legend of Zelda and the franchise, as they will be able to give citations to important facets of the game, the land you inhabit, and more. It literally sets the world, giving you great details into everything inside the world of The Legend of Zelda, setting the groundwork for all future games. Like with all games, every game needs a setting, a place where we can transport ourselves and immerse ourselves into. Super Mario Bros. Is set within the Mushroom Kingdom, a vast land ruled over by Princess Peach and constantly under threat from the evil King of the Koopas, Bowser. Resident Evil 2 transports you to a more Earth setting, but in the fictional city of Raccoon City. A city that has been decimated by the zombie outbreak, with bioweapons coming to kill you. The Legend of Zelda transports you to the fictional world of Hyrule. Shigeru Miyamoto described creating the world of Hyrule as a miniature garden that they can put inside their drawer. As mentioned previously, the inspiration of Hyrule was drawn mainly from medieval Europe, the stories of King Arthur and Excalibur, the masterpiece trilogy of books known as The Lord of the Rings, and Miyamoto's childhood memories of exploration and home. Hyrule is a land that was once a strong and powerful kingdom that has become ravaged by war from the evil main villain. In fact, the instruction manual goes into detail on the history of Hyrule, gives us the name of our hero, who the hero will be rescuing, whose name is also in the title of the game, who the main villain is, and what has led Hyrule to this horrible point in its rich history. It says, a long, long time ago, the world was in an age of chaos. In the midst of this chaos, in a little kingdom in the land of Hyrule, a legend was being handed down from generation to generation. The legend of the Triforce, golden triangles with mystical powers. One day, an evil army attacked this peaceful little kingdom and stole the Triforce of power. This army was led by Ganon, the powerful Prince of Darkness, who sought to plunge the world into fear and darkness under his rule. Fearing his wicked rule, Zelda, the princess of this kingdom, split up the Triforce of Wisdom into 8 fragments and hid them throughout the realm to save the last remaining Triforce from the clutches of the evil Ganon. At the same time, she commanded her most trustworthy nursemaid, Impa, to secretly escape into the land and find a man with enough courage to destroy the evil Ganon. Upon hearing this, Ganon grew angry, imprisoned the princess, and sent out a party in search of Impa. Braving forests and mountains, Impa fled for her life from her pursuers. As she reached the limit of her energy, she found herself surrounded by Ganon's evil henchmen. Cornered, what could she do? But wait, all was not lost. A young lad appeared. He skillfully drove off Ganon's henchmen and saved Impa from a fate worse than death. His name was Link. During his travels he had come across Impa and Ganon's henchmen. Impa told Link the whole story of the Princess Zelda and the evil Ganon. Burning with a sense of injustice, Link resolved to save Zelda, but Ganon was a powerful opponent. Link had to bring the scattered 8 pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom to rebuild the mystical triangle. If he couldn't do this, there would be no chance Link could fight his way to Death Mountain, where Ganon lived. Can Link really destroy Ganon and save Princess Zelda? Only your skill can answer that question. Good luck. Use the Triforce wisely. So there you have it, Hyrule, which was once a thriving and beautiful kingdom, which has been invaded by Ganon, who wants to bring the kingdom under his rule of fear and terror. And now with the kingdom being decimated by Ganon and his forces, the people of Hyrule, the Hylians, have been reduced to living in caves to survive. But one scrappy young warrior shall rise against the forces of evil and seek to defeat Ganon, rescue Princess Zelda, and restore Hyrule to a new era of peace and serenity. Hyrule may be in ruin and embroiled in a terrible war between good and evil, but the kingdom of Hyrule is still a beautiful world. The environment is filled with lush greenery that has plenty of forests, a vast wasteland of deserts, seafronts where sadly Link can't sunbathe at because he's busy fighting enemies, tall mountains to climb to reach specific dungeons, waterfalls that refresh the wonderful beauty that is Hyrule, and more. Truly a beautiful world. Over the years, as the franchise grew, and so did the mythology of The Legend of Zelda, this era in which the first game was set became known as the era of decline and the imprisoning war. This was all confirmed in the collector's book, The Legend of Zelda Hyrule Historia, and don't worry, I shall move on to aspects of the timeline later in this video. Within the war-torn world of Hyrule, Link must not only traverse the overworld fighting enemies, collecting more powerful weapons, items, etc. Within the land are 9 dungeons. In 8 of the dungeons, as we know and found out, is where we find the 8 pieces of the Triforce. Remember me saying that Miyamoto based each dungeon on his childhood, with the sliding doors creating a labyrinth within his home? Each dungeon is a maze as well, requiring Link to kill many enemies, varying in strength and difficulty. Find the keys to unlock doors, using your bombs to open new routes, finally reaching a boss at the end that you must fight to get a new heart container and a piece of the Triforce. The 8 dungeons all have names, and they are: on page 34 of the instruction manual, you can see symbols that represent each of the dungeons, and even when you look at the maps in each dungeon, they look like the symbols from the instruction manual. But there's something odd about the 3rd dungeon symbol, the Manji symbol. It looks like holy it looks like a swastika. Before you start accusing Shigeru Miyamoto as a Nazi supporter or something else ridiculous, let's quickly clear this up. Also, I want to make it abundantly clear that I don't support Nazis, any of their spin-off groups, and thoroughly despise their ideology. The Manji symbol, though designed as a swastika, predates the Nazi swastika by centuries. In Japanese and Asian cultures, it's a symbol symbolizing peace, prosperity, good luck, and the location of Buddhist temples. It also has many other meanings, such as being a modern slang term for seriously, for real, and extreme, to express intense emotions or add emphasis to something as particularly good or bad. Therefore, we can assess that despite the now negative connotations of the swastika, the Manji symbol being used in the game was used as a metaphor or analogy for the character Link, who is fighting evil, the Dark Lord Ganon, wishing to restore peace and prosperity within the dungeon and the land of Hyrule, and also requires all the good luck in the land to complete his quest. Once Link has collected the 8 pieces of the Triforce, Link must travel to the final dungeon. the biggest and most dangerous of them all, Death Mountain. As I've just said, this is the biggest, most dangerous and hardest dungeon of them all, with all the enemies everywhere, all the keys we must find, secret routes we must unveil before we get to the Dark Lord Ganon. Also, the symbol of Death Mountain is very apt in both the instruction manual and map by being a giant skull. And here's the neat little tidbit about Death Mountain. Keiji Terui, who, if you remember, wrote the backstory in the game's instruction manual, the location of Death Mountain was initially a working title for the Legend of the Triforce, which, as we learned earlier, was inspired by battles within medieval Europe. The main aim of the game, besides restoring peace to Hyrule, is to collect the 8 pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom, restore the Triforce to then summon Ganon, to then engage in a battle to the death with him. We're about to dive into the fictional history of the Triforce and Hyrule, as well as the real-life creation of it. So, as Samuel L. Jackson said in Jurassic Park, hold on to your butts. Let's begin. The Triforce is an ancient artifact that exists within the land of Hyrule. It is made up of 3 equilateral golden triangles that, when put together, create one large equilateral triangle. This is the Triforce. When split into its 3 pieces, the 3 pieces become the Triforce of Power, the Triforce of Courage, and the Triforce of Wisdom. The Triforce represents the essences of the Golden Goddesses. Din, the Goddess of Power, Nehru, the Goddess of Wisdom, and Furore, the Goddess of Courage, who are responsible for creating Hyrule and the Triforce, and entrusted both to the goddess Hylia. The Triforce has become the symbol for the heraldry of the Kingdom of Hyrule. The Triforce is imbued with divine and limitless power, as it is capable of granting any wish to anyone who possesses it. Its place of origin is known as the Sacred Realm. The pieces of the Triforce, Power, Wisdom, and Courage, each embody our main characters. Ganon, Power, Zelda, Wisdom, and Link, Courage. The Triforce can only be wielded by someone who possesses a balance of the 3 virtues in their heart: power, wisdom, and courage. Hence, our hero Link. If Ganon was to be in full possession of the Triforce by stealing it from the Sacred Realm, it would have the opposite effect, and he will see through his plan to conquer Hyrule. Effectively, let's put it this way. If I was to compare this to a more modern media franchise, let's say the Avengers. Ganon is Thanos, who wants possession of the Triforce, similar to Thanos wanting the Infinity Stones, to conquer Hyrule, whereas Thanos wanted to commit mass genocide by snapping out half of the universe's population. Now let's look at the real-life creation of the Triforce. For the last 40 years, starting with The Legend of Zelda, the Triforce has become synonymous with the Legend of Zelda series. The real-life origin of the symbol of the Triforce has existed for nearly 1,000 years, dating back to medieval Japan. The symbol takes historical reference from the Hojo clan, a Japanese samurai family who controlled the hereditary title of Shiken, or regent, of the Kamakura shogunate between 1203 and 1333. Basically, they took control of Japan for 130 years. Its emblem was the Matsuroko, or 3 scales. The symbol also appears frequently in contemporary Japanese culture. It appears on the logos for both large and small businesses and can be found on temples and family memorials. Miyamoto, when creating The Legend of Zelda, explained his vision for the Triforce in an interview with Game Cult. He would go on to explain that in early concept ideas for the game and the Triforce originally was made up of electronic chips and electronic circuits, as the game and hero was conceived to travel and take place in both the past and future. This concept was abandoned in favour of the fairy tale and heroic fantasy game we all know and love. Thus, the Triforce was born and has become the iconic symbol for the game. We have already identified that our hero is named Link and he possesses much courage. power and wisdom to go forth into the land of Hyrule, fight the forces of evil and defeat the Dark Lord Ganon to restore peace to Hyrule. But just like the Triforce, let's dig into the history of our hero, both fictional and real. In the original game, although this is not known to Link or gamers of the 1980s, as this aspect wasn't revealed until much later in the series of games, Link is the reincarnated soul of a hero, chosen by the goddess Hylia to protect the kingdom of Hyrule, defeat the evil Ganon, and save Princess Zelda. As we know, he is the bearer of the Triforce of Courage, which, as we also know, is one of the three components of the Triforce, which, as we further know, is an ancient artifact and symbol of power, which we finally know symbolizes the courage and curiosity that Link and the player possesses to set out into the world and their adventure. In The Legend of Zelda, Link is 10 years old and completely unprepared for the war that awaits him. But, as we know, as he progresses through his journey, he becomes more and more prepared for battle because of the items, weapons and magic he retrieves throughout the land. Link wears a green cap, tunic, has brown hair, typically wielding a sword, which he first gets from the old man in the cave, and shield. As Link continues through his journey, he is able to retrieve and carry many items and weapons such as a boomerang, bombs, candles, and even a ladder and raft. These design choices have become the everlasting and defining features that have lasted for decades. Link is part of the Hylian race, a race of people indigenous to Hyrule, a humanoid race with elfin-like features and characteristics, pointy ears and such. Our hero Link is known as the Hero of Hyrule. How was the Hero of Hyrule born? Let's get into it. Miyamoto stated that Link was created from a mix of his childhood memories, movies, and books that he and Takashi Tezuka both enjoyed, and I've mentioned this book before, most notably The Lord of the Rings. Miyamoto wanted the players to have the opportunity to become a hero and created Link to be a normal boy with a destiny to fight great evil. The name of Link is certainly an interesting choice for a protagonist and hero, but there's a very good reason why Miyamoto chose the name Link. The Triforce originally was made up of electronic chips and electronic circuits, as the game and hero was conceived to travel and take place in both the past and future. So, what connects the original idea for the Triforce and our hero's name? Well, Miyamoto said, Link's name comes from the fact that originally the fragments of the Triforce were supposed to be electronic chips. The game was to be set in both the past and the future, and as the main character would travel between both and be the link between them, they called him Link. Finally, in the aforementioned book The Legend of Zelda, Hyrule Historia, Miyamoto continued to elaborate as to why he was named Link. He said it was because Link connects people together, and he was supposed to spread the scattered energy of the world through the ages. Link was named as a way to connect players inserted into the world of Hyrule with their interactive role, creating somewhat of a blank slate representing the player's individuality and methods. The sprite design for Link was created by Takashi Tezuka. In an interview with Game Cult, Miyamoto would explain that the design for Link was based on Disney's Peter Pan. I mean, look at both of them. Look at the similarities. Anyway, Peter Pan was used as a source of inspiration and was done to make the sprite and character more recognizable. Though the Nintendo Famicom disk system was going to be a revolutionary piece of technology in the gaming world, it still had its limitations. Because of this, the development team decided to only use 3 colors and chose green to be Link's trademark color because the game was set mainly in the forest. Subsequently, Link's sword, shield, hat and ears was created to make the character easily distinguishable. Effectively, our hero, Link, was created by Miyamoto as a coming-of-age motif for the player to identify with, putting them into the shoes of not only Miyamoto as a child, going out and exploring the world, but as an ordinary boy who is shoved into a bigger role, realizing their true potential, who is strengthened by the trials in Hyrule, pushing forward to triumph over great challenges and rise to meet and defeat evil. Here's what Miyamoto said about what makes Link and The Legend of Zelda special. Link is a regular boy when the game begins, but destiny makes him fight evil. And I think many people dream about becoming heroes. For me, it has always been important that the gamers grow together with Link, that there is a strong relationship between the one who holds the controller and the person who is on the screen. I have always tried to create the feeling that you really are in Hyrule. If you don't feel that way, it will lose some of its magic. So that's our hero. What about the titular character? Let's dig into the fictional and real history of Zelda. Zelda is a princess and a member of the Hyrule royal family. In The Legend of Zelda, she is the damsel in distress that Link must save as she was captured by Ganon. Just like Link, even though this information had never been given to the player, Zelda is the mortal reincarnation of the goddess Hylia. Zelda is also associated with Nehru, the goddess of wisdom, and is the holder of the Triforce of wisdom, which she splits into 8 pieces, gives to Impa, and hides them throughout Hyrule, necessitating Link to retrieve them and defeat Ganon. With Zelda being in possession of the Triforce of Wisdom, it gives her the inherent qualities of intelligence and wisdom. Her age in The Legend of Zelda is never given, but we can assume that she is aged 16 or 17. Some claim her to be younger at roughly 10 years old. In the game, she is depicted in wearing a long pink dress, a pearl necklace, and a tiara, taking on the prototypical depiction of a princess and damsel in distress. Zelda is part of the Hylian race with the same physical characteristics, so humanoid, elfin-like features including the pointy ears. In many interviews it has been confirmed that Zelda got her name from the wife of F. Scott Fitzgerald, Zelda Fitzgerald, who was an American novelist, painter, and socialite. Miyamoto thought the name sounded pleasant and significant. Miyamoto would say this as to why he named Zelda after Fitzgerald. Zelda was the wife of famous novelist F. Scott Fitzgerald. She was a famous and beautiful woman from all accounts, and I liked the sound of her name. So I took the liberty of using it for the very first title. To finally connect Zelda to the title of the game, Miyamoto had decided to name the game The Legend of X. But he didn't know what the X would stand for. Miyamoto explained that it was a public relations planner who had suggested the name when proposing an illustrated story for the game involving the rescue of a princess who was defined as having an eternal beauty. Miyamoto said this when finalizing the name of the game: "I couldn't really get behind the book idea, but I really liked the name Zelda. I asked him if I could use it and he said that would be fine. And that's where the title, The Legend of Zelda, was born." And there you have it, that is Princess Zelda. Link must forge forth and battle many enemies, both in the overworld and in the dungeons located across Hyrule. Don't worry, I'm not going to read it out, I'd be here for a while if I did. Let's begin. As an FYI, Zola is the enemy I alluded to earlier when talking about the shield and how it can repel attacks. That's the overworld done, let's go into the dungeon enemies. In fact, Miyamoto has gone on to praise the Dark Nut as one of his favourite characters. In an interview in 1994, this is what he said about Dark Nut when questioned about his favourite characters in The Legend of Zelda. "I have many favourites, but I really like the Dark Nut soldier, both for his name and the way he was programmed. In the original Legend of Zelda, he faces Link with his shield and he can change his speed. For its time, it was very elaborate behaviour. Here's a neat little note about the enemy Paul's voice. Let's read together what it says about Paul's voice. A ghost with big ears and a weak point. He hates loud noises. So, when gamers outside of Japan read this entry about this particular enemy, it was slightly confusing because it states that Paul's voice hates loud noises, but there was no way to use that to your advantage. The NES controllers didn't have a microphone, but the Famicom controllers did. So if you wanted to kill Paul's voice easily, all you had to do was make a loud noise into the microphone when Paul's voice is on the screen, and it will die. Many of these enemies would become mainstays in the series and would appear in the subsequent games that followed. As I've mentioned before, to retrieve a piece of the Triforce, we have to defeat an enemy at the end of the dungeons. So let's take a look at them. Just so you know, this is the order of the bosses in the dungeons. I'm not sure why they decided to repeat both Aquamentus and Gleok. Maybe they just ran out of ideas. Now that we've gone through talking about our hero, our titular character, and the many different enemies our hero must face in both the overworld and dungeon, let's move our attention to our main villain, Ganon. As with Link and Zelda, we're going to dive into the fictional and real life history of this evil character. Let's begin. Although not explained in The Legend of Zelda, Ganon is the reincarnated version of the Demon King, Demise. He is destined to be eternally reincarnated, effectively making him immortal, unlike Link and Zelda. The evil Ganon always had a lust for power, conquest, and a desire to rule the world with an iron fist. Due to this, he is in possession of the Triforce of Power, which was imbued with the essence of the goddess Din. With Ganon being in possession of this ancient and divine relic, Ganon is unimaginably strong and has been granted boundless and endless mystical powers which make him the greatest threat to Hyrule and the world. Before becoming a boar pig-like creature, Ganon was once a humanoid man named Ganondorf Dragmire, a Gerudo man who would become the leader and undisputed ruler of the Gerudo people. Ganon for many years has been a boar pig-like creature and warlord wielding a sword or trident, seeking to conquer Hyrule and by extension the world. He is capable of transforming between these humanoid and boar pig forms and into many more devastating and demonic creatures. Ganon was created by Shigeru Miyamoto alongside Takashi Tezuka. Of course, he was designed as a prototypical game villain. You know, ugly, fearsome and whatnot. Although his design depicted him as a pig, it appears that he only wears a red shirt with, ironically, a skull on his shirt. Not exactly the most imaginative, but hey, Ganon has since become iconic. And now, we're going to get into the walkthrough of The Legend of Zelda. Link's adventure is about to begin as he embarks on his journey throughout Hyrule, the dungeons, and inevitably face Ganon to bring peace to Hyrule and put evil back in its place. Our first section is going to be called The Gathering. I say this because it is wise to collect certain items first before embarking to the first dungeon, the Eagle Dungeon. Let's begin. The game begins by tossing Link into the overworld. From the start screen, enter the cave to find an old man who will give you your first item, the sword. Our next mission is to collect some bombs. There is a shop that sells bombs at the far east of the map. From the start screen, head right 8 screens and then up 1 screen. Along the way, defeat the Octoroks, Tektites and Levers to collect rupees. You will need to acquire 20 rupees in order to purchase the bombs. Furthermore, the blue Octoroks that you encounter will occasionally drop bombs as a reward. Just keep defeating the enemies to pile up some rupees. Once you reach the coast, you will encounter an enemy Zola. These water creatures can be defeated, but they are best avoided for the time being. Once you reach the cave, enter it and purchase the bombs for 20 rupees. With bombs in hand, head back down 1 screen and left 4 screens. Place a bomb against the northern wall to reveal a secret cave. Inside, the old man will offer you a second potion or a heart container. Grab the heart container to increase your overall health. From the cave, head up 2 screens, right 2 screens, up a screen and right a screen. Along the way, you will encounter enemy moblins. These enemies have a bit more health than prior enemies, and it's best to just avoid them. There are 2 statues on this screen, and if you touch the statue on the right, the enemy Armos will awaken and it will start to move rapidly across the screen. Quickly head down the staircase here to find a secret moblin who will give you 10 rupees. Walk back left the screen and up a screen to find 2 more Armos statues. Touch the one on the right to find another secret rupee location, this one containing 30 rupees. Continue heading up 1 screen and place a bomb against the northern wall. This will reveal yet another secret rupee location, this one holding 10 rupees. Walk to the left of the screen and place a bomb at the bottom right portion of the large center rock. This will reveal a secret cave where Link can acquire another heart container. From the cave, head right a screen, up a screen, then right across 2 screens. The enemy P-hats found here can only be defeated when they come to a stop. There is a secret passage along the northern wall of this screen, just to the right of the entrance to the cave. After heading up, entering the cave here to find another secret rupee location, this one holding 100 rupees. Walk back down a screen, then left a screen, and up the staircase, enter the cave here to find an old man who will give you a letter. After showing this to the old woman, Link will be able to purchase potions. Go back down the steps and then head left the screen. Climb the steps here and then head left the screen, enter the cave here to find a shop where you can purchase the blue candle. After getting the candle, walk down the steps and then head left 2 screens. Climb the steps on this screen and you'll encounter a blue Linel. This is the strongest enemy in the overworld, but fortunately there is only one of them. Be patient and don't rush in, as the Linel will shoot out a very damaging magic beam towards Link. Avoid the enemy if you can and rush over to the cave. Now that you have 5 heart containers, the old man will give you the white sword. This sword does twice the damage as the wooden sword. With the new sword in hand, exit the cave. After acquiring the white sword, head back down a screen. Left 3 screens, down a screen, and then right a screen. Avoid the falling boulders along the way. There are 5 green bushes on this screen. Pull out the candle and burn down the bush at the bottom right to reveal a staircase. Walk down the steps to find 30 more rupees. Continue down 2 screens and then once again use the blue candle to burn down the bush near the top right corner of the screen. Inside you'll find another secret rupee location, this one containing 30 more rupees. Walk to the left of the screen and again pull out the blue candle. Burn the 5th bush from the right and enter the cave to find another full heart container. Continue walking to the left of the screen and use the candle to burn down the corner bush. Here you can purchase the magical shield for the cheaper price of 90 rupees. There is also bait for sale, but we will buy that in just a moment. Walk down the screen and you'll find 6 green bushes near the center of the screen. Burn down the bush at the bottom left to find a secret rupee location that contains 10 rupees. Next we want to head to the right 3 screens, up a screen and then right a screen. Enter the cave and purchase the arrow for 80 rupees. We won't be able to use the arrows until we get the bow, but we will acquire that shortly. From the cave, walk to the right a screen and then down a screen. There are a number of green bushes in the middle of this screen. Burn the one at the bottom left to reveal a staircase that leads to 10 rupees. Continue down 1 screen and you'll find a similar setup of bushes. This time use the blue candle to burn the lower of the 2 bushes that is in the 3rd column from the left. Inside this cave you'll find a secret rupee location that contains 100 rupees. Now travel back left 4 screens. This puts you back just 1 screen north of the starting screen. Use a bomb to blast open a secret wall to the north. Walk inside and grab 30 more rupees. Walk left 3 screens and enter the cave here. Equip the letter that you got from the old man and show it to the old woman. She will now allow you to purchase potions. Both types of potion will restore Link's health completely. The life potion, the blue bowl, can only be used once. The second potion, the red bowl, can be used twice. After one use, the second potion will turn into life potion. Go ahead and snag some second potion and then leave the shop. We have one last goodie to acquire before heading to the first dungeon. From the potion shop, head left the screen, down the screen, and then left 2 screens along the lower path. The wall to the north has a small divot. Place a bomb just to the right to reveal a secret cave, and inside you'll find 30 more rupees. Walk up and right a screen and you'll see a series of brown bushes. Burn the bush that is third from the top in the center of the screen to reveal a staircase. Inside you will find another secret rupee location, this one containing 100 rupees. Walk up a screen and then left a screen to find a series of bushes. Burn the bush that is at the bottom right of the 8 centered bushes to reveal a staircase. Inside you will find 10 more rupees. Finally, we can now get the blue ring. Walk to the right 3 screens and then up 2 screens. There are 6 armor statues in this area. Touch the middle top statue to activate it and to reveal a staircase. Inside, you can purchase the blue ring for 250 rupees. The first dungeon of the game is located right in the center of the overworld, and it is a rather straightforward path to get there. The enemies encountered along the way are fairly simple and shouldn't give you too much trouble, especially if you gathered all the upgrades from the gathering section. From the start screen, walk right a screen, up 4 screens, and then cross a bridge to the left, enter the tree trunk to take on the first dungeon, the Eagle. At any point if you find that the enemies are giving you a hard time, there's a potion shop nearby that you can go to. A blue potion can be bought for 40 rupees, while a red potion can be bought for 68 rupees. From the dungeon, head across the bridge and head up 1 and left 1. Place a bomb right before where the wall juts out. The 12 stone statues in this room are completely harmless and will not attack you. The door to the north is locked and you'll need a small key to unlock it. However, there is a trick here in the first room. Simply exit the dungeon and immediately re-enter it to find the door to be unlocked. Either way, head left the screen. This room contains 3 enemies, keys. These weak enemies can be defeated with a single sword slash or sword beam. You can also defeat them with a blue candle. After all 3 have been defeated, grab the key that is left behind and head back right 2 screens. Here you will find skeleton enemies known as Stalfers. They are easy to defeat with your sword and are a good source of rupees and recovery hearts. Defeat the Stalfos that is holding the key, then backtrack left a screen and up a screen. Defeat the enemies if you like and continue up a screen. Defeat the 5 Stalfos in this room to grab another key. If you have bombs, you can place one along the northern wall to blast open a shortcut, allowing you to bypass a number of rooms. We will skip this for now and instead you can go head to the right screen. This room is loaded with a bunch of keys. At the far right of the room is the compass. Upon acquiring the item, it will show you the location of the Triforce within the dungeon, which guides you towards the boss. It's completely optional and not very useful. This room also has a secret wall to the north that you can blast open with a bomb, grab the compass if you like, and then progress to the left 2 screens. Once you enter this room, the door behind you will close. You will need to defeat all 6 keys in order to return to the previous room. Use the key and head through the locked door ahead. This room has the small enemy Gel, perhaps the weakest enemy in the entire game. They're defeated with virtually any weapon, and defeating all 3 of them will allow you to push the block in the center of the room. This will unlock the door and you can head left to a secret from the old man. Return to this room and head right a screen. Avoid the enemy Gel and grab the dungeon map located on the right side of the room. This will display the full layout of the dungeon. The door to the right is locked, but for now, let's head up a screen as there is more to do in the dungeon before progressing to the boss. Defeat the 3 Stealthers and grab the key that is left behind, use the key and head up a screen. Here you will find an enemy gorilla. These guys walk around and toss a boomerang straight ahead. They are also a bit stronger than your standard enemies, and if you have the wooden sword, they will take multiple hits to defeat. Defeat them, grab the key and then head left through the locked door. The 4 corners of the room have blade traps, and if you walk between 2 blade traps, they will attack you, trying to squish you. Just quickly run past them so they don't harm you. Blade traps cannot be defeated, so just try to avoid them. You have to make it to the left side of the room, so step in the path of the blade traps, and while they are recoiling, quickly run by, push the block on the left side of the room and then climb down the staircase. Here you will find yourself in an alternative viewing angle. These rooms are common in dungeons whenever you find a dungeon item. Defeat the keys and walk over and grab the bow. The bow can only be used if you purchase the arrow from one of the overworld shops. If you've done so, you can now shoot an arrow, and each time you shoot one, 1 rupee is deducted. While this is the dungeon item, we don't actually need it until much later in the quest. Exit the room and backtrack all the way to the room where we got the dungeon map. From there, head through the locked door to the right. Defeat the 3 gorillas that are found here, and another item will be left for you in the center of the room. This is the boomerang and can be used to stun enemies momentarily. Some very weak enemies, such as Keys, can be defeated with a hit from the boomerang. Continue onward to the room to the east. Once you step into this room, you will hear the growl from the dungeon boss. This indicates that the boss is in an adjacent room. Here you also find one of the more annoying enemies in the game, the Wall Master. These enemies come out of the wall and try to grab you. If they do grab you, they will take you all the way back to the entrance of the dungeon. Defeat them with your sword and then grab the key. Go through the locked door to take on the dungeon boss. This room contains the first dungeon boss, Aquamentus. Aquamentus attacks by shooting beams which can either be blocked with the magical shield or easily dodged by speedy maneuvering. His head is his only vulnerability, so either snipe it with sword beams from across the room if you're at full health, or slash at him close range to take him down. As an alternative method, bombs can also be used to defeat him quicker. After defeating him, grab the heart container that is left behind to increase your overall life meter. This room has no enemies, but in the center is the shard of the Triforce of Wisdom we are after. Make your way over to it and grab it. You will be healed to full health and warped to the entrance of the dungeon. The route to the second dungeon is fairly straightforward, and there is nothing additional for us to do in the overworld. From the start screen, walk right 4 screens, up 2 screens, right 2 screens, up a screen, left a screen, and up a screen to reach the dungeon. The pathway has you encountering a number of rather simple overworld enemies, including Octoroks, Tektites, Zolas, Levers, and Moblins. If you are having trouble making it through the second dungeon, a potion shop is nearby. From the dungeon, head down a screen, right a screen, down a screen, left 2 screens, and up a screen along the right side. Use the blue candle to burn down the bush that is stirred from the top on the left side of this pathway. From the start screen, head up through the door above. Here you will find an enemy known as Rope, a strange name indeed considering they are snakes. They will wander around, but once you are in their direct line of sight, they will quickly run over. Defeat them with a simple sword slash and they usually drop nice rewards. Go through the door to the left that opens up. There are 6 more ropes in this room, and once they have all been defeated, the key will be left behind. Grab it and then return to the entrance of the dungeon. This time, take the pathway on the right. 5 more ropes can be found here, and once they have all been defeated, another key will appear. Grab it and then head up a screen. 3 more ropes appear in this room, but you can just avoid them. Use a key to head through the locked door to the right. This room has 6 gel, but there is no need to defeat them. The compass can be found at the corner of the room. You can bomb the north wall if you'd like, as it creates a shortcut and will save you a key. If you don't have any bombs, return left the screen and then head up. The 5 red gorilla in this room do not need to be killed, and you can advance through the locked door on the right. Strangely enough, One of the Gorilla in this room, if defeated, will cause all 5 of them to be defeated immediately, giving you all the spoils without having to do the work. 5 more gel in this room, and you can avoid these guys as well. Grab the dungeon map. You can once again bomb the northern wall here as a shortcut, but if you don't have any bombs, return left the screen and then head up. The door behind you will close once you enter this room. Defeat the 5 rope enemies and the door will reopen. Grab the key and then head right the screen. Here you will encounter the blue variant of the Gorilla. These guys are a bit tougher and will take a few extra hits. Additionally, this room has 4 stone statue enemies. These statues can shoot beams out towards you. Avoid the beams and defeat the gorillas to get the magical boomerang. This upgraded boomerang will extend across the full screen, allowing you to stun and defeat enemies from much further away. It is a bit odd that we get the upgrade so soon after getting the initial boomerang, but oh well. This room is another room that has a secret wall to the north, so use a bomb to blast it open. This room has a few blade traps and keys. You can use only your newly acquired magic boomerang to get rid of the 4 keys. Upon defeating all 4 of them, some bombs will be left as a reward. Grab them and you can use one to blow up a secret pathway to the north. Alternatively, if you want to preserve your bombs, backtrack left and head up a screen. Defeat all the ropes in this room to unlock the door ahead. Before progressing in that direction, take the door to the right. Here you will find 4 gels. Once they have been defeated, some rupees will be dropped as a reward for you. If you head up through the door, you'll find the old man who gives you a hint about the upcoming boss. The Dongo dislikes smoke. Backtrack left the screen and up a screen. Defeat the 5 red gorilla in this room and they will leave behind some bombs, which is great as we need them for the room ahead. Also, while completely useless, you can bomb the wall to the right to quickly reach the room with the old man. Progress up through the door to take on the dungeon boss. The Dongo will walk around the room in a random pattern and doesn't really have any particular attacks. Your sword does no damage to the boss, and the only way to damage is with bombs. Your best bet is to get as close to the Dongo as you can as it is walking towards you and drop a bomb in its pathway. You want to get close enough so that you are almost placing the bomb in its mouth. The Dongo will gobble up the bomb and it will explode, doing damage to the boss. Repeat this process once again to defeat the Dongo. After defeating it, grab the heart container that is left behind to increase your overall life meter, walk to the center of the room and grab the second shard of the Triforce of Wisdom. There is still nothing new to do in the overworld at this point, so onward to the next dungeon. The third dungeon is located not far from the starting screen. Just head up a screen, left 4 screens, down a screen and right screen. For many players, if you are just wondering about the overworld, it is possible that the Manji is the first dungeon you might come across. It is a considerable step up in difficulty in comparison to the first 2 dungeons, so I do recommend picking up a potion. The nearest potion shop is 1 screen left, 1 screen up, and 1 screen right of the dungeon. Once you enter, head through the door at the left. Here you will encounter a new enemy known as Zol. If you have the upgraded white sword, a single hit will defeat Zol. If you still have the basic wooden sword, 1 hit will cause the enemies to split into smaller gel enemies. Grab the key and head up a screen. 5 more Zols can be found here. Defeat them all, grab the key and head up a screen. Here you will encounter one of the tougher enemies in the game, the Dark Nut. Its large shield will deflect any attacks from the front, so you will need to strike the enemy from the side or at its back. Try to walk up to Dark Nuts from their side rather than straight on. Alternatively, you can use bombs to damage them, but you'll find yourself quickly running out. Once you defeat the Dark Nuts, some bombs will be left as a reward. The wall on the right can be blasted open with a bomb and it serves as a shortcut to get to the dungeon boss. However, we still need to acquire the dungeon item, so instead progress through the door to the left. Defeat or avoid the enemy keys and grab the compass in the center of the room. Use a key to head through the locked door to the left. The door at the bottom of the room is closed and will only open if you defeat the 5 dark nuts. You can travel up a screen to reach a room with a key, but it is completely unnecessary to do so. Defeat the dark nuts and head down a screen. This room is loaded with dark nuts, and if you do defeat them all, bombs will be left in the center of the room as a reward. It's completely unnecessary to risk trying to fight them all off, so when you get a chance, quickly make a move towards the staircase in the room. Defeat the keys and climb over to get the dungeon item, the raft. This will allow us to travel across water in certain portions of the overworld. Backtrack up the stairs and then head up a screen, right 2 screens and then up a screen. Defeat the 3 Zols in this room and snag the key. Now you can head upward if you'd like, as it will lead to an old man who gives you advice about getting the upgraded sword on top of the waterfall. Heading north also leads to a key, but if you never head north, you don't need to worry about it. Use the key and head through the locked door on the right. This room has the dungeon map, which is in an odd placement as it is right near the dungeon boss. The boss is 1 room to the right, and if you place a bomb against the wall you can get there from here. Otherwise, just travel down a screen. Defeat the 3 dark nuts and then progress onward to the right. Here you will encounter an enemy bubble. You may have run into one of these enemies in one of the earlier optional rooms. If they come into contact with you, it will prevent you from using your sword for a few moments. They also cannot be defeated, so just try to avoid them the best you can. Defeat the 3 keys and 2 Zol that are in this room, and grab the rupees that are left behind. Walk up the screen to take on the dungeon boss. Manhandler is a much more difficult boss than the previous 2 ones we fought. It has 4 heads and it will move around the room, shooting out fireballs that cannot be blocked. Avoid the fireballs and strike the heads of the enemy. After a head has fallen off, Manhandler will begin to move much more rapidly around the room, making him much more difficult to avoid. Alternatively, the best method to defeating Manhandler is with bombs. If a bomb blows up, it will destroy every head nearby. A perfectly placed bomb can defeat Manhandler with a single explosion. Repeat this until Manhandler has been defeated. After defeating him, grab the heart container that is left behind to increase your overall life meter. Walk to the center of the room and grab the 3rd shard of the Triforce of Wisdom. In the previous dungeon we acquired the raft, which allows us to do 2 things in the overworld. One is reach a future dungeon, the lizard. The other optional use allows us to acquire a heart container. Return to the starting screen and from there travel easy 8 screens all the way to the far coastline. From there travel north 4 screens to reach a dock. Simply walk onto the dock and the raft will carry up a screen. Enter the cave and the old man offers a 2nd potion or a heart container. Choose the heart container to increase your overall health. The next dungeon is located not far from the previous dungeon. Cross the dock on the raft and then travel left a screen, up a screen, left 6 screens, down 3 screens and left 3 screens. Walk across the dock again to get onto the island. Enter the building to take on the 4th dungeon, the snake. If you are having trouble with the dungeon, the nearest potion shop is the same one from the previous dungeon. From the dock, just travel down the screen and left the screen. From the start screen, go through the door on the left. Defeat the 8 keys here and grab the key that is left behind. Travel back right a screen and then up a screen. Here you will encounter a new enemy known as a Vire. These creatures will hop around the room and are best avoided if at all possible. If you slash at them with your sword, they will split into 2 smaller red keys. These red keys are identical to their blue counterparts. Use a key and head through the door to the right. Once you enter this room, it will be dark, so use the blue candle if you have it to light up the room. Navigate the maze to grab the compass and then head back left the screen. From there, continue up through the next door. Grab the key that is here and then head left the screen. Another dark room can be found here. Light up the room and then head up a screen. Light up the room and then collect the key. Continue up to the next room. Light up the room and you'll find that water is blocking your pathway heading up. We need to acquire the dungeon item to get past this obstacle. use a key and head through the locked door on the right. Defeat the 5 Via in this room and the keys that appear to open up the door on the right. The locked door above leads to a completely useless room, so don't waste a key. Continue onward through the door to the right. Here you will encounter a new enemy known as a like. These enemies move rather slow, but if they come into contact with Link, they will gobble him up, and if he's inside for a few moments, the enemy will eat Link's magical shield. Keep your distance when at all possible, and use safe attacks. After both likes and both Zols have been defeated, you can push the block on the left to reveal a staircase. Avoid the keys and pick up the dungeon item, the stepladder. This will allow you to step over small paths of water. Climb back up the steps and backtrack to the left 2 screens. Use the ladder to step across the water and then use the key on the locked door. Avoid the Vias that are in this room and head to the right screen. Make your way around the room and pick up the dungeon map. If you have bombs, you can blast a hole in the wall to the north, including to a secret rupee room, and also allowing you to bypass some rather difficult rooms ahead. The rupee room has secret walls on all 4 sides. If not, you can backtrack left and up a screen. Here you will take on Manhandler. This time the battle is more difficult as there are blocks in the room that prevent your movement. If you have bombs, use them, but if not, just go at it with your sword. Grab the bombs once Manhandler has been defeated. You can use them on the right side to get to the rupee room, or preserve them and just head up screen. The old man here gives you some advice. Walk into the waterfall. This will lead to another clue, which gives the location of the 5th dungeon of the game. Use the key and head through the door to the right. Light up the room and run over and grab the key. You can blast open the wall below to get to the rupee room, but otherwise just continue onward to the room to the right. Watch out for the blade traps and head down the screen. Here is another one of the few rooms where you must defeat the enemy Vias. Defeat them, along with all the keys that spawn, push the block on the left to unlock the door, and head right to take on the dungeon boss. The 2-headed dragon, Gleok, can be found here as the dungeon boss. Gleok will shoot fireballs out towards Link, and these cannot be blocked, so try to avoid them. Run close to the enemy and slash away with your sword. Keep on the move and avoid the fireballs as best you can. After enough hits to one of its heads, it will break off from the rest of its body and will start to bounce around the room, making it yet another hazard to deal with. Continue slashing away until the 2nd and final head has been defeated. After defeating him, grab the heart container that is left behind to increase your overall life meter, walk to the center of the room, and grab the 4th shard of the Triforce of Wisdom. Now that you have the stepladder, you can collect another heart container, which then in turn allows you to get the final sword upgrade. Make your way back to the starting screen, and from there, walk to the right 8 screens and then up 2 screens. The heart container can be seen on the platform in the water. With the stepladder, you can walk right up to it. With the 12 heart containers, we can now get the next sword upgrade. Walk up 2 screens, left a screen, up a screen, and then left 8 screens, walking across the water with the stepladder. Continue to walk down the screen, left a screen, up a screen, and left a screen. This screen has 10 armor statues. Touch the one at the top right portion of the screen and it will reveal the power bracelet. This item allows you to move specific boulders in the overworld, allowing you to uncover some secret warp portals. Walk left a screen, down a screen, and left 2 screens to reach the graveyard. Here you will encounter enemy Guinea, and if you tap a gravestone, another Guinea will appear. If you then defeat the initial Guinea that is on the screen, all of the enemies will die at once. Go up a screen and you'll find that there are 12 gravestones. You want to push the gravestone that is 3rd from the left in the middle row. Inside you will find the old man, and since you now have 12 heart containers, he will give you the magical sword. This baby does twice the amount of damage as the white sword, or 4 times the damage of the wooden sword. The next dungeon is all the way at the northeast part of the overworld, but we can use our newly acquired power bracelet as a shortcut. From the grave, head down the screen, right 2 screens, and then up along the left side. Use the power bracelet to push the block on the left side, creating a staircase. Enter the cave and select the path on the right. You will appear back in the overworld near the northeast corner of the map. From here, walk left 2 screens to enter the Lost Hills. This is a maze-like screen that will seemingly keep repeating itself. The trick is, you have to walk up 4 times in a row, and doing so will finally allow you to progress to the next screen, which is the location of the dungeon. Walk through the door on the right. Here you will encounter an enemy Pole's Voice. These enemies will hop around the room and are immune to almost all of Link's attacks. The only weapons that work against the Pole's Voice are the sword and the arrows. Defeat the Pole's Voice and grab the key that is left behind. You can blast open the wall above to reach an optional room with the old man if you'd like. Otherwise, head back left a screen and then up a screen. Light up the room with the blue candle. The locked door to the right leads to an old man room where he says, "Dig Dogger hates certain kinds of sound," a hint on how to defeat the dungeon boss. You can blast open a hole in the wall on the left if you have a bomb. Otherwise, defeat the E3 enemy Gibdo, grab the key, and head up through the door that opens up. This room has 3 Dodongos, and technically you don't need to defeat them at all. In the previous room, if you had a bomb and blasted the wall to the left, then this room is completely skippable, as you can only hold 8 bombs and it will take 6 bombs to defeat the 3 Dodongos, so there isn't too much room for error. If you do defeat them, you will get some bombs back as a reward. I personally would suggest just bombing the wall in the previous room and skipping these Dodongos altogether. If you have 0 bombs, you are stuck and will have to leave the dungeon to purchase some bombs from a shop or get them as a reward from an enemy. Use the key to open the locked door and head up a screen. Grab the dungeon map and then head back down the screen. If you defeated the Dodongos, head left the screen. If not, continue down another screen and head through the secret wall to the left. Defeat all the Gibdo in this room and some bombs will be left for you as a reward. Use those bombs to blast open a hole in the wall to the left. If you don't have the most upgraded sword, this can be a rather difficult room as these blue dark nuts have a lot of health. Fortunately, if you are fully upgraded, they shouldn't give you too much trouble. Remember, you can only slash at them from the side or from the back. Defeat all 5 dark nuts and then push the block on the left side of the room to reach the staircase. This underground passage has 4 keys and will lead to the north end of the dungeon. Use one of your small keys and head left the screen. 6 more blue dark nuts fill this room, but fortunately, you have more room to work with. Defeat all the dark nuts and then push the block to reveal a secret staircase. Walk over and pick up the dungeon item, the whistle. This magical item allows you to quickly warp around in the overworld, but its primary use will be to defeat the dungeon boss. Return back up the stairs and then head right a screen. Use a key on the door below. Defeat the 6 keys in this room and grab the key that is left behind. Use a bomb to blast a hole in the wall to the right. The old man will sell you a bomb upgrade at a cost of 100 rupees. Walk over the rupees to make the purchase, and this will allow Link to hold 12 bombs instead of 8, which is incredibly helpful. Backtrack left a screen, up a screen, and through the staircase passage. Continue to backtrack right 2 screens and up a screen to get back to the room with the Dodongos. From here, head right a screen. Defeat all the Zols in this room to get some rupees and then head up a screen. Defeat all the Gibdos to get a key and then continue up another screen. Defeat the 3 red dark nuts to get the compass and continue up another screen. Grab the key that is in this room and use it on the locked door to the left. 5 more Gibdos in this room, but be sure to defeat them all to get a key. There are 5 Pole's Voice here and I recommend using the arrows to defeat them. The wall to the north can be blown up with a bomb leading to an old man room. He will give you some advice. Secret power is said to be in the arrow. This, oddly enough, is not advice about the upcoming boss, but instead the boss of the following dungeon. Nevertheless, head through the locked door to the left to take on the dungeon boss. Here you will take on the dungeon boss, Dig Dogger. Perhaps more of a threat than anything are the 4 stone statues that will shoot fireballs out at you, so try your best to avoid them. As the old man advised early in the dungeon, Dig Dogger hates a certain kind of sound. That's a hint that you need to use your newly acquired whistle. Just pull the item and play it once and it will cause Dig Dogger to shrink down in size to a tiny enemy that can easily be defeated with your sword. An even better strategy is to place a bomb down right over Dig Dogger and then quickly switch over to the whistle. By the time Dig Dogger shrinks down, the bomb will explode and defeat the boss. After defeating him, grab the heart container that is left behind to increase your overall life meter, walk up through the door that opens up. Walk to the center of the room and grab the 5th shard of the Triforce of Wisdom. We can head straight to the next dungeon and it is back at the west end of the overworld near the graveyard. If you are at the exit of the 5th dungeon, just head down the screen, left 7 screens, down the screen, left a screen, down the screen, left a screen and up a screen. If you are at the starting point of the overworld, there is a quick path to reach the dungeon, saving you some time. Just walk right 2 screens and use the power bracelet to push the block on the left. Instead, step into the middle staircase. From here, just head down the screen, left a screen and up a screen to reach the dungeon. If at any point you get stuck, there is a potion shop nearby. Just head down the screen and right a screen. Place a bomb right between the 2 staircases and it will reveal a hidden potion shop. Go through the door on the right. Here you will encounter a new enemy in the form of an orange Wizrobe. These are some of the more difficult enemies in the game and are found all throughout the dungeon. They will shoot beams at you that can only be blocked if you have the magical shield. They will teleport around the room and are only vulnerable when they fully appear. Defeat them with sword strikes and grab the key that is left behind. You can use the key here to open the locked door, but it just leads to an old man location and he tells you to aim at the eyes of Gomer. Walk back left the screen and go through the locked door on the left. 4 more Wizrobes can be found here, and oddly enough this room has a trick where if a certain Wizrobe is defeated, all 4 of them will be defeated. It's completely random which Wizrobe this is, but nevertheless, continue onward, heading up a screen. Defeat the 5 souls in this room and grab the compass, walk up a screen. You can hide yourself in the doorway, which will avoid most of the fireball attacks from the stone statues. I suggest using a boomerang to defeat the keys. When all have been defeated, continue heading up a screen. Just run straight ahead, avoiding the blade traps and walking up a screen. This is perhaps the most difficult room in the game thus far, especially if you are not fully upgraded with a magical sword. You will encounter multiple blue Wizrobes here, who, unlike their orange counterparts, will move around the room, in addition to occasionally teleporting. That, compounded with the bubble that will restrict your sword attacks, the like-likes that will steal your shield, as well as the orange Wizrobes that make it a really tough room. You have to defeat everything to progress. Use a potion if need be, but then push the left block and progress to the next room. If you defeat all of the enemies, you'll get a blue rupee as a reward, but it might be best to just avoid them all. You can blast open the wall on the right side, which leads through a shortcut in the dungeon. However, that would have you skipping the optional dungeon item. Continue to head up a screen. Here you will take on Gleok again, but this time he has 3 heads instead of 2. If you have the upgraded sword, he's actually much easier and shouldn't give you too much trouble, even with the additional head. Defeat the boss and head right a screen. Defeat the souls and like-likes and then grab the map that is left behind. Use a key and head up through the locked door. Defeat the 5 Wizrobes in this room and then push the block on the left to reveal a hidden staircase. Defeat the enemies and grab the dungeon item, the magical wand. This item will shoot out a beam attack much like the Wizrobe's beam. It's a better alternative than the arrow as it does not use rupees. Exit the room and if you have an extra key on hand, just walk down 2 screens. If not, walk down a screen and then right a screen. Run over and grab the key in the middle of the room and head back left the screen. Use the key on the locked door below. Grab the key that is in the center of the room and then head down through the door. If you have the magical sword, this room becomes considerably easier. One slash with the sword will cause the Vyas to be defeated. as they will no longer split into enemy keys. Defeat all the enemies and head through the door on the right. Another tough room, and you'll have to defeat all the likes and wizrobes. Once you've done so, push the block on the left and head down the staircase. Make your way through the underground passage. You can just avoid these enemies and head down the screen. Defeat the Vias while trying to avoid the bubbles. Grab the key and head left the screen. Avoid the blade traps and quickly run past the wizrobes. Use the key and head up through the locked door. Gohma is one of the easiest bosses in the game, as it takes just one hit to defeat. As the old man advised earlier in the dungeon, you need to aim at the eyes of Gohma. You will need to shoot Gohma with an arrow. Just avoid the fireballs that are shot at you and wait for Gohma to open its eye. Shoot an arrow at its eye when it's open to defeat the boss. After defeating Gohma, grab the heart container that is left behind to increase your overall life meter. Walk to the center of the room and grab the 6th shard of the Triforce of Wisdom. Before progressing to the next dungeon, we will need to acquire some enemy bait. This item can be purchased in some of the hidden shops as well as the special shop in the overworld. The cheapest place to get it is at the special shop. From the start screen, walk up a screen, left 3 screens and up 3 screens. Tap the Armos statue that is on the top row in the middle to reveal the staircase. Purchase the bait for 60 rupees. From the secret shop, go down 2 screens, left 2 screens and up a screen to reach a pond. Pull out the whistle and use it, causing the pond to drain and the staircase to appear, revealing the entrance to the next dungeon. This dungeon has a lot of optional rooms and a ton of secret walls that can be blasted open. Furthermore, there are only 4 keys in this dungeon, but there are 5 locked doors. You can skip several of the locked doors if you have enough bombs, or you can just skip a certain room and get by with 4 keys. If you want to explore every single room in this dungeon, you will need to have an extra key before you enter. Go through the door on the right. You can avoid the 2 Moldorms here if you have full bombs, but if not, use your sword to defeat these enemies and grab the bombs that are left. Continue up through the door. The wall to the north can be blasted open using a bomb, but for now, just head right a screen. If you defeat all the gorillas, the door above will open, leading to an old man. He tells you that there's a secret in the tip of the nose. This is a somewhat cryptic yet important tip in order to progress in this dungeon. You'll have to get the dungeon map to see the layout of the dungeon to further understand what this tip means. Nevertheless, continue to the right of screen. Here you will find Dig Dogger, who becomes a reoccurring enemy in this dungeon. When you play the whistle this time around, Dig Dogger will split into multiple smaller versions of itself. You can defeat the enemy if you like and get some bombs as a reward, otherwise just skip ahead and progress to the next room. Defeat the Stalfus and grab the key that one of the enemies is holding. With the key in hand, backtrack by heading left 4 screens. Both the top and the left walls in this room can be blasted open with a bomb. We technically only need to go through one of the 2 passageways. If you defeat all of the gorilla in this room, some bombs will be left as a reward. Watch out for the stone statues and progress through the secret wall to the left. Defeat the keys in this room to grab some bombs and then head down the screen. Defeat the enemies if you'd like and then grab the key. Walk up 2 screens. Here you will encounter 3 Dodongos. If you do defeat them all, you will get 5 rupees as a reward. It's really not worth it, as you can just skip them. Use the key and head up through the locked door. Here is the second and final bomb upgrade, which will now allow you to carry up to 16 bombs. Get the upgrade and then head down and right a screen. We have an assortment of gorillas here, but they shouldn't give you too much trouble. Defeat them all and then head right through the door that opens. One of the Stalfos in this room is holding the compass, so go ahead and defeat him to grab the item. Walk back left a screen and then up a screen. You'll have to defeat all the gorillas and keys in this room to progress. Avoid the bubbles and then head up a screen. Here we have another Dig Dogger, but we can avoid it. 6 more gorillas in this room and they can be avoided if you'd like. If you do defeat them, they will drop 5 rupees. Use the key and head up through the locked door. Here you will find a friendly gorilla who is hungry. Pull out the bait and leave it for the gorilla, who will then allow you to pass. Walk over and grab the dungeon map located in the center of the room. There is a locked door to the right, but we can avoid using a key by instead blasting a hole in the wall above. So go ahead and do that. Despite it not appearing on the map, there is in fact a room above. Grab the 10 rupees and then blast another hole in the wall to the right. There are more gorillas to defeat, and these guys will drop some rupees for you when you defeat them. Defeat them and then head right of screen. Defeat all the gorillas in this room to open up the door once again. Grab the key and then backtrack left the screen and then head down the screen. The door on the left is locked, but just leave it that way. We don't want to waste the key there, as it leads back to a room we've already been. While it doesn't appear there is a room to the right on the map, there actually is. Blast open the hole with a bomb and head right of screen. Defeat all the gorillas and then push the block that is on the left side of the room. Run over and pick up the red candle. This item works just as the blue candle, except it allows you to use it more than one time per screen. Exit the room and then blast the wall on the right side of the room using a bomb. Defeat the gorillas in this room to get some bombs, as you'll need them in an upcoming room. The locked door above just leads to a room with moldorms that will give you some extra bombs. Just ignore it and head through the locked door to the right. Here you will find Dig Dogger, and this one you will actually have to defeat. I suggest placing a bomb right by Dig Dogger and then use the whistle to shrink it down. Once it has been defeated, head up the screen. There are 3 Dodongos in this room, and if you defeat them, they will leave some bombs. It's not worth fighting them, as all we have to do is head right the screen. Place a bomb to blast open a secret hole in the wall. If you recall the old man quote, there is a secret in the tip of the nose. If you glance at the map, we are now at that tip. This room has a handful of wall masters that will come out of the room. Defeat the 5 wall masters so they don't get in your way. If they grab you, they will take you all the way back to the entrance of the dungeon. The secret is that you can push the middle block that is on the right side of the room. Push it and it will cause a secret staircase to appear. Navigate through the underground passage. Use a bomb to blast open the wall on the right side and then head through to take on the dungeon boss. Here you will find Aquamentus, the same boss from the first dungeon. Unlike some of the other bosses who we faced off for a second time, this battle is identical. There is nothing different at all, except for the fact that Link is considerably stronger. With the magical sword, this boss is a piece of cake. After defeating him, grab the heart container that is left behind to increase your overall life meter. Walk to the center of the room and grab the 7th shard of the Triforce of Wisdom. The next dungeon is hidden at the east end of the overworld map. While you could have uncovered the dungeon very early on in the quest and even completed it immediately after the first dungeon, this one is a tough one. I recommend picking up a potion and getting the bomb upgrades if you have yet to do so. From the start screen, walk to the right 4 screens, up 2 screens, right a screen, down a screen and right a screen. Here you will find a lone bush that is blocking the pathway. Pull out the candle and burn it down to reveal the entrance into the next dungeon, the Lion. There are several different routes through this dungeon, as neither item you get is required to complete the game, and you can also skip several rooms that have just hints or the compass. From the entrance you go through the door to the right to collect an easy key. However, we don't need that additional key, instead just head left the screen. Right away you will find a manhandler and you have to defeat it. Use bombs to make things easier, grab the rupees that are left behind and head to the next room. Here we have an assortment of enemies and you'll need to defeat them all. Once you have done so, push the block on the left and head down the staircase. Run over and collect the magic book. This item serves as an upgrade for the magic wand, as now when you use the magic wand, not only will it shoot out a beam, but it will also shoot out fire. This item basically renders the red candle completely useless, as this lights up rooms and has better range. Resurface and then head back right 2 screens to get back to the entrance of the dungeon. From there, head up a screen. There is another manhandler here and you can defeat it if you'd like to get some rupees. Place a bomb along the northern wall and blast it open. This room is filled with blue dark nuts and 4 stone statues that will shoot fireballs at you. If you aren't fully powered up, this room can be quite a challenge. Unfortunately, you have to defeat all the enemies to progress. Once they are all defeated, grab the key and head left the screen. Light up the room and then grab the key that is found here. Continue to the left another screen. Defeat the red dark nuts and grab the key that is left behind. Backtrack to the right 2 screens and then use a key on the locked door. Grab the compass that is in the room and then head back left the screen. Since the dark nuts have been defeated, the door above will be open, so head on through. Don't bother fighting the enemies here and instead just head up through the locked door. There are more blue dark nuts here, and while we'll eventually need to defeat them, now is not the time. Use a bomb and blast open the wall at the top of the room. Here you will find a manhandler, and while technically you don't need to defeat him, doing so will cause the dungeon map to appear. Grab the map and head up through the locked door. Use your arrow to defeat the Goma that is in the room and then head right a screen. Defeat all of the enemies that are in this room and then push the block that is on the left to reach the staircase. Climb over and grab the magical key. This item will allow you to open every single locked door and doesn't go away after you use it. It basically will render regular keys obsolete. After you grab the key, resurface and then head left the screen. Go back down 2 screens to the room with a bunch of blue dark nuts, defeat them all, and then head right through the door that opens. If you defeat all the enemies here, you can grab some bombs, but otherwise head down the staircase to the right. After surfacing back up through the underground area, you'll be in a room with 8 Pole's Voice. If you defeat them all, a key will drop for you, but since you have the magical key, it is useless. Don't bother with the room to the left, instead place a bomb against the northern wall and head up to take on the dungeon boss. Here you will find Gleok, a repeat boss that we fought earlier on. The only difference here is that Gleok now has 4 heads and you'll have to hit them all off. Despite that apparent difficulty, the magical sword does wonders and you should be able to defeat Gleok rather easily. Grab the heart container that is left behind and head up a screen. Walk to the center of the room and grab the 8th shard of the Triforce of Wisdom. It's now time to take on the final dungeon of the game, Death Mountain. You could have technically entered the final dungeon right from the start of the game, but without the 8 Triforce shards, we wouldn't be able to do much. From the start screen, head right a screen, up 5 screens, left a screen, up 2 screens and left 2 screens. Here you will find 2 large rocks, and if you place a bomb just below the rock on the left side, you will blow up the entrance to the next dungeon. You should not enter Death Mountain without a full red potion. Fortunately, there is one nearby, just 1 screen to the left. From the entrance, head up a screen. Since we have the full Triforce, the old man will allow us to go by. Walk to the left a screen. Use a bomb to blast open the wall above and head through. Here you will find a new enemy known as a land molar. These are very similar to the Moldorm we fought earlier in the quest, but they are much faster. They will move around the room and you'll have to strike their head to deal damage. You can bomb all 4 walls in this room if you like to explore this portion of the dungeon. Otherwise, go ahead and push the block on the left and head down the staircase. Make your way through the underground tunnel. Be careful not to lose your magical shield in this room. Defeat the likes and then use the key to get through the door on the right. It is best to just avoid these enemies. If you would like to get the compass, bomb the wall below and head down to the next screen. Otherwise, just progress to the right a screen. Just walk down and use a bomb to blast through the wall below. Defeat all of the Wizrobes that are found in this room and grab the compass that is left behind. Backtrack by heading up 2 screens and then head through the door to the right. Here you will find a brand new enemy and perhaps the most difficult enemy in the game, Patra. Its main eye is surrounded by 7 smaller eyes. They will rotate around the large eye and occasionally will create a much larger circle, harming Link if he touches them. You will have to defeat all of the smaller eyes before being able to harm the larger eye. This particular Patra does not need to be defeated, so just avoid it for now and head down the screen. Defeat all the gels to get some rupees and then bomb the wall to the right. Here you will find a second Patra, and while you don't actually have to defeat him, doing so will cause the dungeon map to appear. The map might seem more intimidating than most dungeons, but fortunately, the vast majority of rooms are skippable. Use a bomb to blast open the wall above. This room looks quite intimidating, but fortunately, we don't have to defeat any of the enemies. Run to the north wall and blast it open with a bomb. You will have to defeat all the Wizrobes in this room, which can be quite difficult given all the blocks and bubbles that are in your way. Use a potion if you need, but once all the enemies have been defeated, push the block to the left and head down the steps. Run over and grab the red ring. This will cut the amount of damage you take when getting hit. Link will take half the damage that he did before when he had the blue ring, or 1/4 of the damage he took from when he had the green tunic. Resurface and then head back down 2 screens to where we fought Patra to get the dungeon map. Continue to backtrack left the screen and upper screen to where you fought the first Patra. Go through the locked door above. The old man gives some rather direct advice this time around. Use a bomb to blast open the wall to the left. Defeat the Wizrobes and push the block to the left to reveal a staircase. Make your way through the underground passage. Defeat or ignore the Zols and head left through the locked door. You can defeat all the keys here to get some rupees, but then head left the screen. Here you will find another Patra, but this one is slightly different as its eyes will move in a more elliptical formation. Defeat the enemy and then push the block on the left to reach the staircase. Make your way through the underground passage. You can avoid these enemies for now if you like, but will eventually have to defeat them. Bomb the wall above and head through. You'll have to defeat all the Wizrobes in this room, and the bubbles make that rather annoying. Use a potion if needed. Once all the Wizrobes have been defeated, push the block in the middle on the right to reveal a staircase. Run on over and pick up the silver arrow. This item is a much stronger version of the arrow and is also the only item that is capable of defeating Ganon. Resurface and then head down the screen. Defeat the Wizrobes to reach the staircase and go back through the underground tunnel to get back to the room where you fought Patra. From there, head up a screen. Defeat or avoid the like-likes in this room and head up a screen. There are more like-likes here as well as some blade traps. Avoid them and head up a screen. Place a bomb against the wall on the left and blast it open. Defeat all the Wizrobes and then push the block on the left. A hidden staircase appears beneath the blade trap, so step in front of it to trigger it and then quickly run towards the staircase. Make your way through the underground passage. Avoid the enemies and bomb the wall on the left. Defeat all the enemies and then push the block on the left to reach the staircase. Make your way through the underground passage. Here we have one last Patra fight. Defeat the enemy and then head up through the door that opens to take on the final boss, Ganon. Upon entering this room, it will turn dark. Link will hold up the Triforce of Wisdom and the room will light up with Ganon appearing. Let the battle begin. Ganon will disappear and begin to shoot fireballs at you, which are unblockable by your magical shield. He moves around in a pattern, so hit at one of the locations he shoots from and you'll hit him. Each time you strike, he will change his pattern. This phase is quite random and could be annoying. I find it best to stay at one corner or part of the room and just keep slashing away until you hit him. After striking him 4 times, he'll become brown. This is your sign that he is nearly defeated. Whip out that bow and sling the silver arrow at him, causing him to explode. The Triforce of Power falls into his ashes, so grab it to unlock the doors. Slash at the fire and approach Princess Zelda. You will each hold up pieces of the Triforce, and the credits will roll. Congratulations on saving Hyrule, and that is The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda was released on the Famicom Disk System on this day 40 years ago in Japan, February 21st, 1986. It was released on the Nintendo Entertainment System in North America on August 22nd, 1987, and in Europe on November 15th, 1987. The game did get a release in cartridge form on the Famicom, but this was on February 19th, 1994, a whole 8 years after its initial release. Upon release in Japan, it sold incredibly well and was universally praised. In Japan, it sold 1 million copies on the first day of release. Bloody hell. It then went on to sell a total of 1.69 million copies in Japan. After its success in Japan, The Legend of Zelda became one of the most highly anticipated releases in North America, and upon its release in 1987, it topped video game charts. It did this by selling over 1 million copies in the United States in 1987, before increasing to 2 million copies sold by the end of 1988. By the end of 1990, the game went on to sell 3 million copies in the United States and eventually would go on to sell 6.51 million copies worldwide. When The Legend of Zelda was released in Japan, a reviewer for Bi-Weekly Famitsu was impressed with the game's audio, the smooth graphics, and easy to control characters. He would summarise that the game's popularity was from the game's design and noted that while the game is initially difficult, the players are rewarded by the hard work they put in. When released in North America, Computer Entertainer called it excellent and went ahead and exceeded all expectations, and continued to say it has more to offer than the typical hack and slash epics with monsters to fight, secret doors to discover, and plenty of frustration. He would continue to commend the rewards of treasures, weapons, experience, places, and discoveries within the game. It continued to heap praise on the very appealing and beautiful fairy tale quality, the addition of the battery backup save feature, and would add this to their review: the charming graphics, superb original music, excellent animation, and smooth transitions in scrolling between locations. They called it an incredibly rich, deep gaming experience that goes far beyond the typical cartridge game. They concluded that the game would appeal to both male and female players of all ages, and stated that the game would be a must-have for every Nintendo owner. Tony Takushi of British magazine Computer and Video Games reviewed The Legend of Zelda upon release in Europe. He would call it a massive arcade adventure packed full of dragons, imprisoned princesses, traps and pitfalls. They remarked at Hyrule as an enormous country to examine, with dozens of things to collect, and continued to praise the hidden power-ups, bonuses, the supreme playability, excellent graphics and sound, although there was one criticism: the cost of the game. At the time of release in 1987 in the UK, The Legend of Zelda cost 39 Great British pounds, which would have cost 69 American US dollars, which would be the equivalent of 180 United States dollars in 2024. Finally, 40 years after the game's release, The Legend of Zelda continues to feature in countless top game lists, considered one of the greatest NES games and video games ever, and it is still seen as one of the most influential games of all time. But we will get to more detail into those aspects soon enough. After the unprecedented success of The Legend of Zelda, the franchise began to grow, and on January 14th, 1987, Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link was released in Japan. which was fundamentally different from The Legend of Zelda in almost every way. Since then, there have been 20 games in total in the mainline series, 10 remakes of those games in the mainline series, multiple spin-off games made by various developers, including the infamous Trio of Terror released on the Philips CDI, Link, The Faces of Evil, Zelda, The Wand of Gamelon, and Zelda's Adventure, which had no influence or observation from Nintendo. These games, though, have received a cult following since. Of course, many characters would appear in the Super Smash Bros. Series of fighting games, including Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf. But we also have seen Young Link, Toon Link, Zelda's alter ego Sheik, and many characters appear as assist trophies, such as Tingle, Midna, Skull Kid, and Girahim. Link has also had the pleasure of crossing over into the world of Soul Calibur in Soul Calibur 2 as a playable character. But Link hasn't been just crossing over to the realm of fighting games, as he has also crossed over into Mario Kart, where he appeared in Mario Kart 8 as a DLC character along with the Hyrule Circuit and his own customizable vehicle. Has The Legend of Zelda been limited to just games? Hell no! The Legend of Zelda had its own animated segment during the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, producing 13 episodes, which, similar to the CDI games, had little to no influence or guidance from Nintendo, giving the writers and show creators carte blanche on developing the series. The series has since become a thing of legend itself due to the characteristics of its characters, especially that of Link. Ganon was always portrayed as being in possession of the Triforce of power, with goals of kidnapping Zelda, conquering Hyrule, or just steal the Triforce of wisdom from Zelda. Zelda was portrayed as the typical damsel in distress, but was also seen as headstrong, self-sufficient, and as Link's equal in every way. Then there's Sprite, a fairy princess who assists and accompanies Link and Zelda, but dislikes Zelda as she sees Zelda as competition for Link's affection. Finally, there's Link. Link throughout the game never speaks and only really communicates through non-verbal communication or grunts and screams. In the series, he can talk. Okay, no biggie. I can live with this. But how is he portrayed? What is his character like? Well, he is a moaning, self-centered teenager and douchebag who repeatedly fails to convince Zelda to kiss him for his heroic deeds. He also has a catchphrase.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Our three main characters were also characters that appeared in Captain N, the Game Master, with Ganon being a minor villain and Link and Zelda being support heroes. Then there's the litany of printed media, music and merchandise, including Monopoly, Uno and Clue-themed board games that exist out there. Finally, as I record this, due to be released on May 7th, 2027, is the live-action film adaptation being developed by Nintendo and Sony Pictures of The Legend of Zelda, directed by Wes Ball, starring Bo Braggerson as Princess Zelda and Benjamin Evans Ainsworth as Link. After all of that, it is safe to say it is a juggernaut of a franchise. With 20 games in the mainline series, the timeline should theoretically be pretty straightforward, right? That is definitely not the case. With each game, it shows a different era in the history of Hyrule with a different reincarnated version of Link, Zelda and Ganon. Keep in mind, they are destined to do this forever. Anyway, within the timeline and lineage of the Legend of Zelda franchise, even with the Legend of Zelda being the first game ever released, it is not the first in the timeline. What? Yep, the timeline itself isn't even linear. Double what? The timeline of Legend of Zelda is actually split into 3 different timelines. I'm going to do my best to explain the timeline without going into all the main story beats of each game, so here goes. The timeline begins with The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword released on a Nintendo Wii in 2011. This is followed by The Legend of Zelda Minish Cap on Game Boy Advance, which was released in 2004. Next in the timeline is The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords, which was released on Game Boy Advance in 2002. Then we get to the epic The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64, released in 1998. It is here when the timeline splits into its 3 different timelines. These are timelines dependent on the final outcome of the event of Ocarina of Time, and they are known as the Heroes Defeated, the Heroes Victorious, which then splits into 2 separate eras of Child Link and Adult Link. First, the Heroes Defeated. The first in the Heroes Defeated timeline is the Super Nintendo classic The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, released back in 1991. That is followed by the classic The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening on Game Boy, released in 1993. Up next is The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages. These games were released on Game Boy Color in 2001. The timeline isn't advanced until The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds on the Nintendo 3DS in 2013. We move forward with The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes, also on the Nintendo 3DS in 2015. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom on the Nintendo Switch, released in 2024, comes next. It's on to the first game in the franchise, The Legend of Zelda on the Famicom Nintendo back in 1986. Before we finish off with its direct sequel, Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link on the Famicom and Nintendo, released in 1987 to round off this timeline. Now it is time to move on to the hero is victorious side of this timeline, and I'm going to go into the Child Link era first. After the events of Ocarina of Time with the hero being victorious, the Child Link era begins with The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. This classic was released on Nintendo 64 in the year 2000. Our Child Link era continues with The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess on the Nintendo GameCube, released in 2006. We round off this part with The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures on the Nintendo GameCube in 2004. The child era may have been short, but the adult era is just as short. The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker on the Nintendo GameCube, released in 2002, kicks off this particular era. This is followed by The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass on Nintendo DS in 2007, and the era is rounded off by The Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks on Nintendo DS in 2009. That is one hefty timeline, but that's only 18 of the mainline games. What about the other 2? Well, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on Nintendo Switch, released in 2017, takes place after the events of all the games, starting a brand new era in the franchise. This is directly followed by 2023's The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on the Nintendo Switch. To explain the whole timeline, the main story beats and plot points, pivotal moments in the history of Hyrule, would take a whole other video. Maybe one day, but today is not that day. To go back to the beginning of this video, there are games that revolutionize and influence a genre or even an era of gaming. The Legend of Zelda did exactly that. When you look at members of the gaming industry who have been influenced by The Legend of Zelda and the franchise as a whole, it's literally a who's who of Hall of Fame worthy developers and companies. Let's take a look. Dan Houser, the creator of the Grand Theft Auto series and founder of Rockstar Games, says he was greatly influenced by the Zelda and Mario games on Nintendo 64 to enter the industry, develop the GTA series, and develop 3D games in general. This sentiment was followed up by fellow GTA director and Rockstar Games founder Sam Houser, who cited influence from Zelda and described GTA 3 as Zelda meets Goodfellas. Okami director and Platinum Games founder Hideki Kamiya was influenced by the Legend of Zelda games and cited A Link to the Past as his favourite game of all time. Amy Hennig, who worked on Soul Reaver and Uncharted, cited influence from A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time. The creator of Dark Souls, Hidetaka Miyazaki named A Link to the Past as one of his favourite role-playing games. Fumito Ueda cited Zelda as an influence on Shadow of the Colossus. Raphael Lacoste, who directed Prince of Persia and Assassin's Creed, said that Wind Waker influenced him on Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. CD Projekt Red has said that The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt was influenced by the Zelda series. There are many more, but you get the point with who it influenced. The first game though, The Legend of Zelda, is considered a forerunner of the modern action role-playing game. Despite it not technically being an RPG game, due to it lacking certain fundamental mechanics such as experience points, it definitely became the template and blueprint of what became of the RPG genre. Even the setting, style of music and gameplay became important components of the RPG genre. The commercial success of The Legend of Zelda, thanks to its non-linear gameplay, helped lay the groundwork for other successful RPGs such as Crystalis. Then, let's not forget the clones that came out thanks to the influence and success of The Legend of Zelda. The music of The Legend of Zelda has now become iconic. When Koji Kondo created the music back in 1986, I bet he would never have seen just how recognizable, popular and iconic the music has become. Every single musical reference to Zelda can be whittled down to the iconic Link finding an item, its overworld theme, and title music. The symbol of the series, the Triforce, has become globally known and associated with the game. Even with its historical background, you see those three triangles and you immediately think of The Legend of Zelda. Many celebrities across the world have been greatly influenced by The Legend of Zelda. WWE champion and superstar Cody Rhodes would have the Triforce on his wrestling boots in his early years in WWE. Finally, I have to mention the late great Robin Williams, who was a huge fan of the games. He was so much of a fan that he named his daughter Zelda after the titular character, and they both appeared in a commercial together to promote The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D for the Nintendo 3DS. What can I say about the legacy that The Legend of Zelda has left? Everything within the influence section speaks volumes. But let's put it this way, without The Legend of Zelda, the industry would be a completely different animal. Okay, sure, other games would have been made to fill the void that would have been open, but the RPG, hack and slash, action and adventure games would be a different world. The Legend of Zelda has been at the forefront of the industry since February 21st, 1986, and after 20 games, 40 years, spin-offs, merchandise and more, it continues to do so. There's no end in sight for The Legend of Zelda, and the only way to end the series is either by ending the series on a note within the world of the game that is final, or subsequent games fail critically and commercially. The thing is, that's unlikely to happen. The rich world and history of Hyrule continues to light up the imaginations of gamers across the globe and ignites a passion. It continues to be the perfect getaway and form of escapism for gamers. When Shigeru Miyamoto first came up with the idea to create The Legend of Zelda, he wanted to make a game that would revolutionize and influence the industry. Since then, he has been doing that on a continuous basis, and after 5 decades, there's no stopping him. Here's what he had to say regarding his career. I feel that I have been very lucky to be a game designer since the dawn of the industry. I am not an engineer, but I have had the opportunities to learn the principles of game design from scratch over a long period of time. And because I am so pioneering and trying to keep at the forefront, I have grown accustomed to first creating the very tools necessary for game creation. And on that note, I would like to thank you so much for joining me on this epic quest, this epic journey, this epic adventure, exploring the history of The Legend of Zelda, a 40th anniversary retrospective. And as always, all I have to say is if you like the video, give it a like. Share the video as well, because the more shares, the more views, the more that the channel continues to grow, and the more that I get to do this for you. Subscribe to World-1 Entertainment and check out all of the other content that's currently available, because you never know, there might be something that you like. And there are previous history ofs, the history of Mega Man 2, the history of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the history of the WWE SmackDown games, and the history of Super Mario World. Check out all the other content that is currently available, because like I said, you never know, there might be something that you like. And if you do subscribe, hit that notification bell so you are notified about any and all content that goes live onto the channel. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you again next time. Take it easy, everyone.